This is on Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Hopefully this is winding your work week down. Day off tomorrow for us here at 104.5, except Jimmy. Hopefully it is for you as well. Holiday weekend is approaching, so get out there and enjoy it. But before then, we got a lot to get to here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Casey Gaines and Taylor Sharp back on the ones and twos. Guy leaves for like 2 weeks. He comes back for a day, and then he's going back on vacation. A tremendous job scheduling by you. You've clearly figured this thing out.
I did not plan it. But look, I'm happy to be back, man. I'm excited.
How's the sunburn?
Not a burn. Pretty nice tan, though.
Well done.
Yeah, looking good.
You can always ruin a vacation if the first day you go out there and kind of don't monitor your sunscreen application, and then you've got significant issues. But everything was good?
The only problem I had, day one, top of my right foot burned. But that's so minor of an issue. We didn't worry about it. We powered through it. We're here and we're ready to go.
A cocktail can power you through that. You got just a foot burn. You can make that work. We're glad you're back. Congratulations. Wedding was fantastic. I guess I'll tell this quick story about Taylor's wedding on the air. I don't even plan on doing this, but I will. So I had the wedding 2 Sundays ago, I guess, and drive out there to a meet, and I pull up to the venue. It takes me a while to figure out how to get to the parking spot, but I park my car. There's a bunch of cars there, and I park my car and walk into the place where the whole wedding's set up. And I look at the picture as I walk in, and I go, "That's not Taylor." So that's not a good sign. So I walk out to clearly one of the employees, and I'm like, "Is this the Sharp wedding?" They were like, "No, it is not. In fact, that's around the corner. You got to follow the black gravel top through the lattice work, and you'll find the other wedding venue." So I walk in, and at this point, I'm like 3 minutes late. I walk in, so I didn't get a seat at the wedding, but apparently there were simultaneous 5 p.m. Sunday weddings at the venue. I went to the wrong one, not surprisingly.
So how late did you walk into mine?
Y'all had gone down, the procession had gone down, and everyone was seated, but I heard your uncle was doing the thing, and I heard the vows and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't get a seat because it was kind of a smaller.
Did you get there after she walked down the aisle?
Yes, after she had walked down the aisle. It was a smaller venue, so I wasn't going to take some focus off of the actual vows and wedding ceremony that was going on by finding a seat in the kind of intimate gathering. So I just kind of stayed back. It was me and a dad who had a baby that was kind of walking around making sure we didn't have any hysterics. But I monitored the situation from the back, and it was lovely.
Excellent, man. I appreciate you making an appearance.
Absolutely. It was fantastic. So glad Taylor is back with us. We're with you until 3 o'clock. We are kind of loaded with guests today on this Thursday. I'm excited to talk with Paul Mainieri coming up here in 15 minutes. Coach has had an interesting couple of weeks. He's got a spring off, for the second time in a bajillion years. So he went to Augusta for the first time ever, I'm told, earlier this week. I want to chat with him about that. He's doing some work with the ACC network on some television stuff. I want to talk to him about that, and then just a little bit about this team. I think that we've got an interesting weekend coming up with LSU and South Carolina with the weather and kind of managing pitching and how all that goes into it. So I'd like to chat with Coach about that. Plus, it's just good to catch up with Coach Mainieri when we can. Scott Rabalais at 1:30, actually from Augusta National. We'll get an update on what's going on over there, some LSU basketball in this hour. We'll get you set for the SEC baseball weekend with Joe Healy in hour number 2 at 2:15. And the Pels, got a win last night. David Grubb with us at 2:30. But I'll start with a preview of the South Carolina Gamecocks, LSU and South Carolina. 3-game set in Columbia coming up this weekend. The weather just looks awful. So they're just going to have to figure this out one way or another. The way I understand it, the rules are not going to allow them to play on Sunday. If you have school the next day, you can't stay an extra day. So I think they've got to figure this thing out over the next 72 hours, and we'll see how that looks. But just from a perspective of what this South Carolina team is, they're 27-3 and they're 8-1 in the league. They're a top 5 team. And their non-conference wasn't great. Now, they did play Clemson a 3-game set. They do a deal where they play one in Columbia, one in Clemson, and one at a neutral site. And in that series, they took 2 of 3 from Clemson. They won the home game and the neutral site game, lost the game in Clemson. On Tuesday night, 2 days ago, they beat North Carolina up in Charlotte, shut them out 5-0. So, it's not like they've played nobody. They've played 3 SEC series. They played Clemson. They played North Carolina in a midweek, and their record is very gaudy at 27-3. They opened SEC play at Georgia and swept the Dogs. 2 of those games were run rules in Athens. They clubbed that Georgia team all over the place. I think Georgia's bad. But South Carolina took care of them in Athens. They swept Missouri in Columbia, which is fairly impressive considering what Missouri was coming off of. Do I think Missouri's awesome? No. Do I think they had some pitching injuries in that series? Yes. But they did sweep that series 9-8, 8-1, and they won an extra inning game 5-4. Then they went to Starkville last weekend and took 2 of 3. One of those, a run rule in the favor of Mississippi State, 13-3, but they won the other 2 to improve their record to 8-1. Offensively, their numbers are gaudy. Maybe not in terms of a batting average, which is not the end-all be-all. They're 8th in the SEC in batting average at 299, but they lead the SEC in homers. By now, you probably know that with 72. They got 4 guys that have double-digit homers on the year, although one of them is not going to play in this weekend. We don't expect Will McGillis to play, and he's got 10 home runs so far, but they do have 3 other guys with 10 homers. Ethan Petrie, the freshman's been sensational with 13 homers. He's got 7 of those in league play. Gavin Casas is a transfer from Vanderbilt who's got 4 homers in league play. He's hit 15 on the year. And then Cole Messina also has 10 home runs on the year. So a slugging team. They're 3rd in the SEC in slugging percentage, and they draw the most walks in the SEC at 190. And that's a recipe for scoring a bunch of runs. You walk a lot, and you hit a bunch of home runs and slug a lot. That's kind of the recipe for modern baseball success offensively, and South Carolina does. Now with that recipe for success offensively, you slug a lot, you walk a lot. What is sometimes the other side of that shoe? They lead the SEC in strikeouts. They strike out more often than any team in the SEC. So that's something to keep in mind this weekend for LSU. I think their strategy, South Carolina's tonight against Paul Skeens, is probably going to be to try to coax a walk or 2 and then pump one in the gap or hit one over the wall. You're not necessarily against Paul Skeens trying to piece together 4 singles in an inning to get 2 runs. That's not, generally speaking, how you're going to beat Skeens. You got to try to work the counts, draw some walks, and then find a mistake and put a great swing on one. That's what South Carolina's done a good job of this year. That's probably going to be their approach against Paul Skeens tonight. In terms of pitching, they're 2nd in the SEC in ERA, 2.98 earned run average on this season. They are 5th in the SEC in strikeouts, and they have walked the 2nd most hitters in SEC play. So that's a concern for South Carolina, and LSU does a good job of working counts and drawing walks. So that is a place where LSU can potentially chew this pitching staff up by drawing walks, which they will. They also, they're great at not allowing home runs, and they play in a small ballpark. They're 2nd in the league in fewest home runs allowed, which is impressive when you play in that yard. They haven't caught it great. They're 12th in the SEC in fielding percentage to this point. So who are the starting pitchers that LSU is going to see on this weekend? Well, it starts tonight with Will Sanders. Will Sanders got some preseason All-American love this year. That's a guy that kind of fits the mold of your SEC ace. He's 6'6". He's 230 pounds. He's a junior, and he's a very projectable draft pick. This year, his numbers are not spectacular, and I'm gonna ask Joe Healy about this coming up in the second hour. I'm not 100% certain why Will Sanders did not pitch last weekend. He had started game 1 in their first and second SEC series. He did not start a game last weekend. So I'm not 100% sure what the deal is there, but you're talking about a guy who's 92, 93, 94 with the fastball from that big burly body, and he has got a split finger that is wicked. It is 87 miles an hour, and it cuts hard into the right-handed hitter. That, to me, feels like you might want to load the lineup up with some righties. It might be a Jared Jones game. It might be a Paxton Kling game here to try to get right-handed bats in there against that split finger that's devastating on lefties. He doesn't throw as many true breaking balls. The splitter is his out pitch. So let's see if LSU doesn't go with some right-handers in this game. But like I said, he's gotten hit a little bit in SEC play. He did get through 7 innings against Georgia, but they scored 4 earned runs on him. And then against Missouri, he got hit pretty hard. He gave up a home run to right field that still has not landed. He only made it 3 1/3 innings against Missouri. He only had 2 hits. He walked 6 in that game and gave up 5 earned runs in those 3 1/3 innings. So, look, Sanders is pretty good, and he was an emotional pitcher in that Missouri game. He was fired up to be out there, and that's kind of what you're going to see every big-time pitcher feel like against this LSU team. You're going to feel like this is your opportunity to kind of make a statement against what looks like the best lineup in the country. Curious to see how LSU handles Will Sanders. Missouri sure did, and he's coming off a weekend in which he didn't pitch. Their number 2 guy, because we have a TBA for them in Game 3, but their number 2 guy is Jack Mahoney. He's a great athlete. He's 6'3", 205 pounds. You watch him pitch, he looks like an athlete on the mound. He is. His freshman year at South Carolina, he made 14 pitching appearances. 5 of them were starts, and then he got hurt. So he came back last year as a sophomore and played some infield for him, played some second base, took some at-bats. He couldn't pitch, so he helped them that way. Now he's back in the rotation, and he's got good stuff. His fastball is 94 miles an hour. He throws a good 86-mile-an-hour change. He will throw a slider. He's got good stuff. And when we talked to Joe Healy a couple weeks ago about South Carolina and how good they really were based on their record and their competition, he said, look, a coach that played against them has told me, like, they were waiting for South Carolina to bring in that right-hander that threw 89 miles an hour with a slurvy off-speed pitch that they could really take advantage of, and it really never happened. It's a pretty deep pitching staff, but those are the 2 starters you're going to see. Sanders, big old boy, good fastball and a splitter, and then Mahoney, a really good athlete who's going to be in the mid-90s with a good changeup and a reasonable slider. So LSU's offense, there's not a lot of guys that I look at and go, man, I'm really terrified of that staff against this offense, and neither of these 2 guys fits that bill. But it wouldn't surprise me if they had some success against LSU because they're good pitchers. My concern of this weekend is after Skeens for LSU because Ty Floyd, we saw it last weekend on Friday. He throws that fastball. He kind of elevates it with that spin rate, and that's one that you can get up under and hit fly balls. This South Carolina team thrives on hitting fly balls, and they hit a ton of home runs. And we saw Floyd give up 3 home runs against Tennessee in his start on Friday. If he can't keep it in the yard against South Carolina, he could get dinged pretty good. And that concerns me. And, of course, you got Christian Little in the last game, and we haven't seen him start in SEC play yet. So LSU needs to win this game. They need to win Game 1 behind Skeens, and then you go into Games 2 and 3 and try to split. I don't love the matchup for LSU in totality in Game 2. I might favor South Carolina in that ballpark with that pitcher against Floyd in Game 2, which would make it a rubber game in Game 3. But there's a chance LSU could just bash the cover off the ball in one of these games, score 11 or 12 runs, and then LSU will be fine. Mississippi State did that to South Carolina back last weekend in Starkville. So going to be a fun weekend. They're going to try to dodge rain showers. It's going to be a lot to deal with. But to me, Jay Johnson's got to have his team mentally ready to go. You might have to sit down for a couple hours and then come back and play. You might have to play 2 games in a day. You might have to start 2 games in a day and then come back on Saturday to finish the 3rd one. Who knows what's going to happen with the bad forecast out east, but you got to be mentally tough and you got to go out there and find a way to win games. It starts tonight for LSU, where they need to take advantage of having the better pitcher on the mound with the better lineup, in my opinion, and get off to a good start this weekend. So LSU and South Carolina, that's that kind of your look at the Gamecocks. We'll certainly dive a little bit deeper with that when we talk to Joe Healy at 2:15. We'll take a time out right here. When we come back, we're going to chat with former LSU head coach Paul Mainieri, who's had a busy couple of weeks now that he's not in the dugout anymore. We'll talk to Coach Mainieri next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. We've had the pleasure to do that here on the Hunt Palmer Show over the last 8 or 9 months. We told you about great stories of champions in our great state, like Mimosa Handcrafted, Metamore Institute, Young Entrepreneurs Academy, Four Sisters, Rice, Fresh Junkie Racing. The list goes on and on and on of people that are doing great things in our state. If you know somebody, maybe it's a person, maybe it's a business, maybe it's a nonprofit that's elevating our state and that their story should be told, we want to tell it. So go to lwcc.com/champions, lwcc.com/champions, and nominate them to be a champion of Louisiana. LWCC will reach out. They'll go through the vetting process, and if they say, hey, yeah, this is exactly what we're looking for, they'll pass that information along to us, and we'll be able to tell those stories as we've been doing over the past year. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Water.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-
in for live MLB play-by-play this weekend when the Atlanta Braves host the San Diego Padres. Saturday at 6:20 and Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along on this Thursday, let's head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. That's where we'll find former Tiger coach, national champion Paul Mainieri. Coach, thanks so much for the time. How are you?
Hey, Hunt. Good to be with you.
So, I didn't know if you were aware of this or not, but there are other things that go on in the spring outside of college baseball. This is news to you, correct?
For the first time in my life, I'm finding that out, actually.
So I'm told you headed over to Augusta for the first time. I need your thoughts on that.
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on that. Two of my former players, Buzzy Heidel and Mike Hollander, are marshals at the Masters, and so they get tickets to the practice sessions, but they have to work, so they don't get to use them. But they rent a house, and when they heard that I wanted to come out there, they immediately invited me, and so I went out, played a couple of rounds of golf, not at Augusta National, but at some other courses in Georgia. Then I had my good friend come up from Jacksonville, and we spent Monday walking around from 8 in the morning until 5:30 till they kicked us out. And I'm telling you, what an experience. That'll be a day I'll never forget. The immaculate course, the way that they maintain it, watching these great golfers practicing. I watched John Rahm put on a clinic chipping on the 9th green. Like, he made it look so easy. And I said, man, I don't think my chips look quite like his. But it was a wonderful experience.
Anything stand out to you about the golf course that maybe didn't come through on television? I know you hadn't watched a ton of the Masters over the year when you're sitting in the dugout all those years, but anything that as you're walking around you went, oh, I didn't even realize that.
Well, I'm watching. I'm going to be watching the Masters this year with a great deal of interest because we walked the entire course. From hole 1 to 18. We got sidetracked a couple times. There were these three guys playing a practice round over at a different hole: Tiger Woods, Fred Couples, and Rory McIlroy. So we decided to watch them for a little while, and then we went back and started following the other holes. But I don't believe television even comes close to giving it justice, the beauty, how hilly it is.
Yeah.
I mean, my legs were sore after walking that course, to be honest with you. So it's just beautiful, well manicured. The efficiency of how things are run there, from the concession stands and the golf shop and the parking, the restrooms, everything. Disney World could take some hints from the way they run the Masters.
They had some help on the parking side when it helped. Money helps, and the Augusta National was able to purchase an entire subdivision of homes and bulldoze them to use for parking for 1 week a year. So when you got cash,
I didn't know that.
You can do a lot of things. How many times did Buzzy mention to you that he shot even par? 10, 13, 16?
No, well, he talked about the 6 birdies he made during that round, more than the 72. But Buzzy is wonderful. We have a great time together. Mike Hollander, just awesome guys. So I checked off 2 bucket list items. Number 1, I got to go to the Augusta National, to the Masters, even though it was a practice round. But also the second thing was just spending time with my former players in a much different role than I did when I was coaching them. I've just enjoyed it. I've done so many things since I retired to, be with former players and get to see their families and their wives and their children, and just spending time with them has been priceless for me.
That's cool. Another thing you're doing is doing a little television for the ACC network, I understand. A little different perspective, but how would you have enjoyed that?
Well, Hunt, I did it one time. I made my debut a few weeks back when Florida State visited Virginia, and I did the whole 3-game series. So I actually was in the airport getting ready to fly to Phoenix for a week. I was going to meet my son, the writer, my son Nick. He was doing a story on one of my former players that was playing for the Canadian national team in the World Baseball Classic. So we met out there. We got to watch a couple spring training games, a couple of World Baseball Classic games. But anyway, I was sitting in the airport. I got a phone call out of the clear blue from a fella. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered it. And he was going to be doing the play-by-play for that series. And he said, I can't think of anybody that would have more knowledge about the coaches of both Virginia and Florida State than you. So I would like you to come and be a color commentator. Brian O'Connor, the coach for Virginia, was my assistant for 9 years at Notre Dame. And the new coach at Florida State had spent the last 3 years as the head coach at Notre Dame. So I knew them well. And I was a little nervous about it, in all honesty, Hunt. People have said you should do some television, but I didn't want to go out there and promote myself for it. Wasn't sure if I'd like it. I wasn't sure if I'd be any good at it. But after putting the nerves aside, it was a lot of fun. It gave me a chance to really think about the game and express some things, to the audience out there. And I got some really good feedback from people that said they learned a lot about the game from a coach's perspective. So I don't know if there'll be another time or not. We'll see. I enjoyed it, though.
I've done a little bit of color, and I sit here for 2 hours and just talk every day. And in color, you got to kind of keep it concise. And I know that sometimes you get to talking, so did you have to kind of cut those things down a little bit between pitches?
Well, I know my reputation is such that brevity is not my greatest quality. So, yeah, I adjusted well. And the guy I worked with, a guy named Jason Patterson, man, he was a real pro doing the play-by-play. And, he kind of teed things up for me, and I knew, to be pretty quick with my comments. So, honestly, it was a lot of fun, and I got to watch some good baseball, too.
I know you've been doing a lot. We're talking about the Masters. We're talking about doing a little bit of TV. You're visiting the former players and playing a lot of golf. But I know that you keep your thumbs on LSU as well. I just want to ask you about a guy that you brought to campus because I've been watching LSU a long time. Can you put into words what you're watching from Dylan Cruz right now?
Well, I knew when Dylan said that he wanted to come to school. Of course, Nolan Kane and I had recruited him. And, just like when we recruited Bregman or we recruited Joey Gallo, it was a flip of the coin whether or not they'd come to campus. And to our benefit, Dylan struggled a little bit in the summer before his senior year and wasn't going to go as high in the draft as he felt that was commensurate with his ability. I don't mean to make it sound like he was conceited, but he was a very confident and talented player. So he really wanted to come here because he kind of looked up to Alex Bregman, and he thought, I'm going to go there. I'm going to prove that I'm a high first-round pick and have a great experience and, make my mark on LSU baseball. So I was not surprised at all that as a freshman, I think he had about 20 home runs my last season as the coach. And in all honesty, Hunt, when I decided to retire, one of the more difficult things in the decision process was knowing that I was going to walk away from Dylan and Trey Morgan and Jordan Thompson and some of the other guys. I wasn't going to get to coach them for 3 years. And what he's done has been absolutely phenomenal. I can't predict that he was going to hit 550 or, who does? It never is done. So he's playing on another level, and I'm so happy for him. I'm happy for all the guys. Usually their lineup shows 9 of the 10 players, with the exception of Tommy White, 9 of the 10 players I either coached or I recruited or both. So I still have a real strong interest in seeing those kids do well and have their careers at LSU be very special for them and memorable.
We've got one more question for you, Coach. I appreciate your time. Just put your coach hat on one time here. They're going to Columbia this weekend to play, and the forecast looks just awful for 3 days. You've certainly gotten ready for a lot of weekends where that was the case. Do you communicate to your pitching staff or your players that we might have to do things a little bit differently, or you got to be mentally prepared? How do you go in to a weekend where you can't control the weather, but it looks terrible for 2 days?
Well, you have to prepare them for that, but not just right before that series. It's for the whole year. It's an attitude that you just have to deal with whatever challenges present themselves to you, whether it's injuries within the team, whether it's weather issues, whether it's travel issues, because you just don't want the kids to overreact. And they have to adapt. And if any of my former players are listening to this interview, they're probably chuckling to themselves, because I would tell them every year that there is not an asterisk put next to the results of the games that are played in less than ideal conditions. They all count the same. So whether it's rainy, whether the game starts, gets stopped, picked up again, stopped again, whatever you got to do, at the end of the year, they look at the results of the games, and they're not going to say, oh, yeah, but that game was played in bad weather conditions. So you got to prepare them all year that these things might happen. And I used to actually do things with practice to prepare them for those things. Like we'd start practice, and I'd stop practice for an hour, have them go sit in the locker room, and then come back out and start practice again, just in case those kinds of things happen. When it comes to pitching, that's really the challenge, and especially on the first day of the weekend series, because, in this case, they're going to have Paul Skeens going, whether it was Aaron Nola or Kevin Gausman or Alex Plant. Did start a game, and then maybe the game gets stopped after 2 or 3 innings. You have a long delay, and then you lose your Friday night starter for the rest of the weekend. So this is a challenge. It's not one of the things I miss terribly about not coaching, quite frankly.
I believe it, Coach. We really appreciate some time. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon.
Great visiting with you, hon. Take care.
That's former Tiger. That's former Tiger head coach Paul Mainieri. I great perspective from him. I enjoy the fact that when you think about Coach Mainieri, he grows up in a household where his dad's coaching college baseball, and then he plays college baseball as a college player, and then he starts coaching immediately. And so every weekend from February to June, his entire life has been booked, and now he's getting to go play some golf in Florida, do a little bit of television, go see the Masters. It's a whole new world for Coach Mainieri, and I appreciate him giving us some time as he's headed to the airport at this moment to pick up. So let's take another time out. We'll go to Augusta National when we come back. Scott Rabalais is there. He'll chat with us next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN to sign up, Place your first bet and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. You want to bet on the Cubbies? Might not be a great investment strategy for you, but I'm here for it. I'll be pulling for them. I'll be pulling for you. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issues non-withdrawable bonus bet. It expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you're someone who knows a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd
at the Ochsner Medical Complex at The Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown presented by Ochsner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees.
On Mondays Off the Bench, we hope you had a wonderful Easter and we'll recap an extended weekend worth of action. How did the Tigers fare in their trip to South Carolina? Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Looking up at my television screen, and Taylor Gooch just hit it in the water on 13. He went to live. I'm happy he hit it in the water. Is that a nice thing to say? It's probably not a nice thing to say, but it is what it is. We'll head out to Augusta right now. Scott Rabalais is there covering it for The Advocate. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Scott, I apologize. That was not a nice thing to say, but how are you?
I'm as happy as you are.
I figured you might have been. It's not a great forecast for the weekend, but it appears some real scoring conditions out at Augusta today.
Yeah, the course is a little soft today. It's warm. There's not much wind. as Ben Wright, the former CBS announcer, would say, Amir Zephyr. So this is good scoring conditions today as we see Victor Hovland 7 under par with 3 holes to play. Xander Schauffele 5 under. Rahm and Koepka with golfer also at 4 under. So good scoring conditions. And then they're going to have to build an arc for the weekend. It's Friday, 70% chance of rain, half an inch of rain. Saturday, an inch to an inch and a half. Sunday, early morning rain. But as you know, this course is equipped technologically to handle a lot of rain because of the sub-air systems under the greens and the drainage and everything. So as long as they don't have a lot of thunder and lightning, they'll play. And they'll have to play in the rain and the cold and the wind. They expected for this weekend.
Yeah, it should make the golf course a little bit more difficult, I would think. I remember Zach Johnson winning at 1 over par in a slop fest because he's just a wedge guy. We'll see what the weekend does hold. I'm curious, Scott, what is a day in covering the Masters like? I know you're not bringing a cell phone out on the course and doing any of that kind of stuff. That's not allowed. So how do you get out on the course? What do you watch on the television? What kind of interview structures do you have? What is a day in covering the Masters like for you?
It's a lot of back and forth because we're in this press building, and we're at the opposite end of at the far end of the practice facilities. We see them on the practice tee. We're about 400 yards away from there. So if you need to go out on the course, you got to jump in a golf cart, and they take you over to the first hole, and it's about 3 minutes. And they do a lot of interviews outside the clubhouse, and of course they bring some of the top players. Victor Hovland, I'm sure, will be in here after his round. Here in the interview room, where you see a lot of the pre-tournament interviews, where Chairman Fred Ridley was speaking to us yesterday, that sort of thing. It's a lot of back and forth. Like I just went out on the course to watch Sam Burns and Rory McIlroy. They were tee off, and then I headed back in here. Saw Sam birdie the first hole, and then he eagled the second. So off to a good start there. He's still 3 under on playing the third hole. So you want to get a feel for the course, but you got to end up staying kind of close to home as well, because you got to get the interviews and stuff. But it's, I gotta say, it's not the hardest thing in the world to cover, because they help you out. There are quote sheets and there are videos and there are things like that. But you want to get out there every day and get a feel for the course. And as I was just doing before I came on here with you.
This goes for someone covering the tournament like you are, someone who's paying attention to the tournament like me. There is no more functional, helpful website than the Masters website. Me and my buddy are literally texting back and forth. Go watch the third shot Hovland hit on 10, and you can literally click on him, go to the scorecard 10th hole, and click on his third shot, and it'll just show you the shot. I mean, how much do y'all use resources like that in terms of covering a golf tournament?
Oh, it's remarkable. Like I'm at this moment, I'm thinking about writing a column about Phil Mickelson, just how he's so different now that he's back and playing for the LIV Tour and not the apple of everyone's eye anymore. But I can go back on the website. You can go to the website and watch every shot of every player,
yep.
And it's on there in a condensed format. I mean, you can watch somebody's whole round in about 10 minutes. I've done that before. It's remarkable. Now you're right. Their approach to social media and websites and things like that is always state of the art, and that's one of the ones where that's the most true is just on Masters.com.
You mentioned Mickelson, and I've heard a lot of people that have spent a lot of time at Augusta over the years talk about how different his approach has been this year. I don't know how often you've seen his Tuesday press conferences where it feels like he holds court. He didn't do one of those this year. Everyone said he was pretty silent at the Champions Dinner. Have you noticed, or have you seen him and noticed this noticeably lower profile that he's been keeping?
Yes. I mean, yeah, he was not invited to come in for interviews in the press building. Monday and Tuesday are the big interview days, and only one of the LIV players was invited, and it wasn't Phil Mickelson. I think it was Cam Smith.
Yep,
he was British Open champion, so that made sense. His physical demeanor seems very different. As you said, at the Champions Dinner Tuesday night, and Fuzzy Zeller was quoted by SI.com saying he didn't speak. And this is a very different Phil Mickelson than we're used to. I've been to some of his pre-tournament press conferences, and he was glib, and he was funny, and he was sarcastic, and he was being a smart aleck, and a little give and take with the reporters. some intelligent banter, and he seems diminished.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, it's the old. It seems like the old cliche. What does it benefit a man to gain the world if he loses his soul? And I think that's what you see in Phil Mickelson now. And you say, well, okay, he can't contend, and he's 1 under right now. I mean, he's bounced back and he's playing pretty well, 1 under through 8. But he's got all the money, and you say, well, he's going to be 53 in a couple of months. Shouldn't contend. Well, he won the PGA 2 years ago, and he knows this course like the back of his hand. He's won here 3 times, so you would think he could contend, and maybe he will. But going into it, it just seems a lesser version of Phil that we've seen in the past.
You may have to change that column up from Phil Mickelson. Sam Burns, birdies 1, eagles 2, birdies the short par 4 third. He is 3 under. He's 4 under through 3 holes. So you might want to go out there
and as good as you're gonna do.
Go catch him. Go catch him. I'm curious your thoughts. You talked about this with Hanny yesterday, but this is kind of showing it. Your thoughts on Sam's game over the last month and what his chances are now as he's 4 under through 3 holes.
Yeah, a month ago, I wouldn't have thought all that much of him. He was having not a bad year, but just kind of by his standards, a player who's made it into the top 10 in the world, just a so-so year. And then he has a 6th place at the Valspar, which he'd won the previous 2 years, and he goes win the world match play in Austin, beating Scottie Scheffler, the world number 1 in the semifinals, just wiping the course with Cam Young in the final 6 and 5. So you're only beating the guys you're playing. You're not beating the whole field at one time, but it's still you have to play a bunch of impressive players to get that victory. So he comes in on very good form. He's as I've said many times about Sam, he's if you want to build a golfer, to say this is a guy who can win major championships, he might look like Sam Burns. He's tall, he can hit the ball far, he putts well, he's in the top 5 of a lot of putting categories on the PGA Tour this season, and he's got that even temperament. He doesn't get too high or too low. He's not going to get real down on himself. I don't think he's just going to move on to the next shot. And I firmly believe he's going to win a major one day. It could be this one. It could be this week. It could be in the future, one of the other ones. But he's just got to kind of break through. His best finish in the major was a tie for 20th at the PGA last year. So he's got to maybe get into contention some more. Played here last year for the first time, missed the cut by 1, but he's got a little knowledge now, and as I said, he's playing well, and he's playing well today. Obviously, we're going to keep an eye on him for sure.
Any chance you're going to ask Victor Hovland for some fashion tips? Maybe get a shirt from him after this round. Is that something you're going to look into?
That is quite a shirt, isn't it? That is something. Now, I'm in my plain gray golf shirt, looking more like I see Xander Schauffele on the TV and here in the press room right now. I'm a little more looking like Xander Schauffele than Victor. That is quite an outfit. I like him though. He'd be a nice guy. You'd be happy to see break through and win that first major. The biggest story, if I'm rooting for a story, the biggest story I'm rooting for is Rory McIlroy to win and complete the career Grand Slam. But Hovland would be a nice one too.
Scott, we appreciate the time. Get out there and watch Burns light it up.
Thanks, man. Pleasure.
He is Scott Rabalais of The Advocate. He'll be reporting from the Masters all weekend long. We'll take a time out. LSU basketball, some good news over the last 24 hours, some bad news over the last 24 hours. We'll talk about it next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. What does your dream bathroom look like? Does it look like the one you have right now? You could change it. One Bath and Closets. David Duvall and his team have been in this business for 30 years. If you need a full-scale renovation of your bathroom, they can do it, and they're your only call. You don't have to call a floor person and a plumber and an electrician and then deal with somebody who can handle the shower and no, you don't have to. One call. One Bath and Closets. They handle it from start to finish. Maybe it's a full-scale renovation like I'm talking about. Maybe it's something simple, just a tub-to-shower conversion. I don't have a 1-year-old like Hunt. I don't need the bathtub to bathe the kid in. I just need a cool shower. They can put a walk-in shower, gorgeous glass front, tub-to-shower conversion. It is quick, it is cost-effective, and it can change the way your bathroom looks and functions. If you need a new closet, One Bath and Closets can help you there as well. They tell them that if you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you over there, they're going to not charge you for the labor to rip out your current closet or install the new one. They're just going to charge you for the cost of that unit. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. Check them out. OneBathAndClosets.com.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Water.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Healy have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd.
At the Oshner Medical Complex at The Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and Joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown presented by Oshner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 528.
Henniger. We will be off on Friday. Hope everybody enjoys their Easter weekend. We will be with Jimmy out on Game Time at 10 a.m. at Ruffino's. We're back on Monday for Handy Time with a big SEC weekend for LSU recap. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and the Baton Rouge Clinic bring you the Dreams Come True Radiothon. Dreams Come True is an organization designed to help grant dreams for children with life-threatening illnesses and their families. The Dreams Come True Radiothon is presented today by the Baton Rouge Men's Clinic, Patient Plus, and Louisiana Federal Land Bank. You can donate today at 104.5ESPN.com. Such a wonderful cause that we're lucky enough to be involved with here at Guarantee Media. If you've got any means that can help out these kids, we certainly appreciate it. No donation is too big or too small to grant these dreams for children in our state that are fighting this battle. All April long, we are running this this radiothon and just thrilled to be a part of it. So again, you can go to 1045ESPN.com to donate. Some great news yesterday for LSU basketball is they received their first transfer in from the transfer portal, Jordan Wright from Vanderbilt. We have talked about Jordan on this show multiple times, so I think by now everyone is pretty familiar with Jordan Wright, 6'6", 220-pound guard from Vanderbilt, but originally from right here in Baton Rouge. He attended the Dunham School and was a really, really good player up there at Vanderbilt. He was Vince Carter's first commitment and signee at Vanderbilt. Not Vince Carter. I'm completely Jerry Stackhouse. It's just totally blank. Somebody that could throw it down in the late '90s, early 2000s. And so at Vanderbilt, over the course of his career, he started 73 games for him, played in 123. He averaged for his Vanderbilt career 9.5 points, but over the last 2 years, 12.3 points per game and 10.5 points per game. So a double-figure scorer, a guy that 2 years ago shot it at a 42% clip. From a 35% clip. 3 years ago, shot 43% from three in kind of a reduced role. Jordan Wright is not going to come to LSU and become an all-league player, a 21-point-per-game scorer. He's not a program-changing player that's going to come in and save the day. What he is a trusted veteran guard who can shoot the ball, who's been through SEC play. He is not in any way, shape, or form a question mark. He is a certainty when he takes the floor. You had some question marks that you brought in this past year. Some panned out awesome, some did not. This is not a question mark. This is a guy who's going to come in. He's going to be a great locker room guy. He's going to be a contributor on the wing. He can play defense. He's made big shots. He made the shot to beat Kentucky in Rupp this past year, and he immediately betters your basketball team entering next year. So that's a nice add at the guard spot, where we've talked about now for 3 weeks that they have got to get better at the guard spot, and he does that for you. It may be a reaction to some people when you see Jordan Wright, well, this doesn't move the needle for me. And that's fine if it doesn't move the needle for you, but it is what it is. It's a guy that's going to help you in the backcourt, and so I think that's a really good ad for LSU, and certainly not an unexpected one. The second he went to the transfer portal, I came on and told you, hey, this is one you probably need to look at. On the negative side, earlier today, Sean Phillips, the freshman 7-footer, has entered his name into the transfer portal. That's disappointing for LSU for sure. I don't know how expected it was. I'm not sure what the discussions have been. However, Sean Phillips did show some real promise late in his freshman season. And 7-footers can take some time. At some point when you're a 7-footer, you've had some massive growth spurt that you've had to kind of adjust to in your life. And Sean Phillips was not ready to play in November. If you watched him play at all, you could have seen that. I think there were some people that watched him kind of emerge, especially defensively and on the rebounding side of things, in late February, and said, well, why wasn't this guy playing all year? Well, it's not quite that simple. I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to have that production off the bench all year, especially when KJ got into some foul trouble. But he wasn't ready, and then he made some strides and gave you some real help, and that would have been a piece, a 7-footer that can move, that can run, that can jump, and is kind of developing on the offensive end is always a piece that you'd like to keep around and develop in the program. And that was a guy that I thought LSU could expect to make a step next year in the front court, where you've still got Derek Fountain, and you've still got Jalen Reed, and you've still got some size and some length down there that may blossom into a better front court than you had this past year in totality. Maybe not just with KJ, but in totality. And it appears that you're going to be one leg short there as Sean Phillips has decided he's going to leave. And that's just the nature of this thing. Every year you got to re-recruit the roster, and that's why it's just not as simple as what do you bring in from the high school ranks. Because the odds are most high schoolers are going to look elsewhere. Some aren't, but most are. You look at the rosters across the SEC this year, and the amount of people that transferred in is staggering. And that means they transferred out of somewhere. So to just look at recruiting rankings over a 3-year period and determine, okay, this is what the team should be, that's just not the way it works anymore. And you've got to continue to go recruit high-level high school players, but you've also got to go out there and re-recruit them when they get to campus and recruit the transfer portal to turn over almost 70-80% of your roster each and every year. It's not the most practical thing I've ever seen in the entire world, and you can argue whether it's good or bad, and I'll sit here and listen to either side of it. The fact of the matter is it is what it is. And so you brought in 3 guys who are pretty talented freshmen in this class that you thought to be developing, and now one of them with a pretty high upside has decided he's going to look elsewhere, and that's pretty disappointing. So in the same 24 hours where you get a nice piece to your basketball program in Jordan Wright to come in and play his last year of eligibility on the wing, you lose some depth and some upside in the front court as Sean Phillips has decided he's going to enter the transfer portal. So that's disappointing, but it is what it is. And I know for a fact that Matt McMahon is working that transfer portal really hard. They're having as many visitors to campus as they can get. And I think you'll hear over the next 3 weeks or so, more names continue to jump in the boat and potentially more names jump out. You just never quite know until those things actually happen. 18, 19, 20-year-olds can be pretty fickle at times and make decisions on a whim. So Jordan Wright in, Sean Phillips out. That's hour number 1 here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We opened the show. I previewed South Carolina, LSU and South Carolina game 1 tonight. I gave my thoughts on it. Paul Mainieri jumped on at 1:15 and always enjoying talking to Coach about some of the things that he's getting to do, going to Augusta, doing some TV work for the ACC Network. Also some thoughts on this LSU baseball team. Scott Rabalais with a Masters update at 1:30 and a little LSU basketball there. We'll take a timeout for SportsCenter. When we come back in hour number 2, I will get you ready for the SEC baseball slate of the weekend, and then we'll have Joe Healy in his normal spot, he of D1 Baseball. David Grubb talking Pels at 2:30 as we get you toward the weekend. Come back after SportsCenter.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Each year, Guarantee Media hosts a radiothon to benefit Dreams Come True, the local organization that grants dreams to Louisiana kids suffering life-threatening illnesses and their families. We've interviewed these incredible kids, and their stories warm our hearts. And none of it would be possible without your help. So we're asking for your support in our effort to making more dreams come true. Each year, our Dreams Come True radiothon is powered by the Baton Rouge Clinic. Visit GuaranteeMedia.com to pledge your support today, and thank you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Round one at the Masters. Coverage live right now on ESPN and ESPN+. Victor Hovland is the leader right now at 7 under par. He's 2 shots ahead of Xander Schauffele, Adam Scott, and John Rahm. Tiger Woods 1 over for his round after back-to-back birdies on 15 and 16. But ESPN's Michael Collins says it's hard to imagine Woods being a contender from now on.
It's going to be a tough road. Because for him, it's all about stamina, and it's not even about, like, stamina as far as physical fitness stamina. It's stamina of that damaged leg.
Michael Collins on KJ and Max. The New York Jets add a former Packers quarterback to the roster today. No, not that former Packers quarterback. Tim Boyle signs a 1-year deal. The trade talks continue on Aaron Rodgers. The Mavericks lose their protest of a loss 2 weeks ago against the Warriors. Dallas filed the protest claiming the game officials did not properly administer an out-of-bounds call.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. Fortunately, Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. It's a good thing, too, because having a home is hard work. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. Geico.com. Easy.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Hunt Palmer Show on this Thursday. Hope your work week is going well, and hopefully you only got a couple hours left. If you're traveling this weekend, which I will be doing as of 7:30 tonight, driving to Shreveport, not a lot of fun, but is what it is. When the bride gets off work at 7, we hit the road at 7. Get there a little after 11. It is what it is. I got a tee time early in the morning. That I probably will not get to play in because Shreveport is about underwater right now. Seems like Columbia, South Carolina is about to be underwater. Seems like Augusta, Georgia is about to be underwater. The Southeast, not great for outdoor activities. I know 2 people have had crawfish boils canceled for tomorrow. It's just Mother Nature may not be cooperating on this Easter weekend, but we'll make the best of it. We'll try to make the best of it elsewhere in the Southeastern Conference. Want to get you ready for some SEC baseball over the weekend. First game is at 5 o'clock tonight at Alabama. It is Mississippi State and the Crimson Tide. Mississippi State got their first win of the conference season last week against South Carolina. They are 1-8. Alabama is 3-6. And the question is, can Mississippi State figure out some way to pitch it? And it doesn't appear that way right now. Joe Healy, as I mentioned, got that highway. We'll talk to him here in 15 minutes. He's got the Highway to Hoover podcast, and he had Robbie Falk on, who covers Mississippi State, yesterday. And he was like, yeah, they've tried about everything they can try in the weekend rotation. They just can't find any sort of realistic answer. The only way they won a game last week, they scored 13 runs against South Carolina in a game, and that helps you in winning a game when you can bash out that many runs. And that's what Mississippi State's going to have to do. They're limited in the starting rotation. They don't catch it very well. They're just going to have to bash it. And Alabama's got a talented 1-2 punch in Hitt and Hess at the top of that rotation, and a veteran lineup that ought to be able to knock it around a little bit against Mississippi State. Alabama got off to that great start, lost the last weekend pre-conference to Columbia, and then they went to Gainesville and lost 2 out of 3, but they acquitted themselves pretty nicely in that series. We'll see if at home they can do what you should do, and that's take a series from Mississippi State. That's the first game of the weekend. Vanderbilt is in Columbia, Missouri to play the Missouri Tigers. Vanderbilt is 9-0 in the league. That's not a team that LSU plays this year, so not a team that we necessarily spend a ton of time on here, but we're probably going to have to in the coming weeks, because if LSU expects to contend for a Southeastern Conference championship, Vanderbilt's one of the teams that is very much going to be in the mix for it. So they'll go to Columbia, Missouri to play the Missouri Tigers this week. Vanderbilt's 9-0. They beat Ole Miss, all 3 in Nashville. They went to Mississippi State and won all 3 of those, and then they played Georgia. So the teams that they have played thus far have an atrocious combined record. Ole Miss has won 1 game. Mississippi State has won 1 game. I think Georgia has won 2 games, maybe only 1. So obviously part of that is that they've handled them, but part of it is I don't think those 3 teams are great. And now they play Missouri. After that, Vanderbilt has South Carolina, at Tennessee, Kentucky, at Bama, at Florida, Arkansas. So the schedule picks up significantly for Kentucky. I think for those that may be doing radio or covering teams outside of Baton Rouge, you would have that exact opposite conversation about LSU. And by now, you know that conversation I'm going to have is like, you look at LSU, they went to College Station, they played Arkansas, they played Tennessee. Like, those are three fairly difficult series. A&M's records doesn't suggest it, but it was a road trip. And then the other two, are tough teams that you played at home. So there are a few teams where things are going to pick up significantly. South Carolina is one. Vanderbilt is another. South Carolina picks up this week with LSU. Vanderbilt goes to Columbia, Missouri. They ought to be able to handle their business there. Maybe the most intense series of the weekend might be Arkansas and Ole Miss. If you're a listener to this show and you care about college baseball, you know that Arkansas and Ole Miss have very solid baseball programs to elite level programs. Arkansas has performed at an elite level for a decade. They just haven't climbed all the way to the top of the mountain. Ole Miss always has a pretty scrappy, good club, sometimes elite level talent. They've fallen a little bit short of championships until last year when they finally banged the door down and got it done. But these two teams, when they get together, tempers seem to flare. These coaches have been there a long time. I don't think they have any animosity towards each other, but the programs are good. They played in a super regional a few years ago up in Fayetteville. It's a heated rivalry within the Southeastern Conference that I don't think a ton of people are totally aware of. But Ole Miss has got its back against the wall. And that's what scares me a little bit in a couple of weeks when LSU goes to Oxford. LSU's better than Ole Miss. And the staff that Ole Miss is going to trot out there, LSU should light it up, but it's still going to be a supercharged Ole Miss team when LSU gets there. They're going to have their backs against the wall because their record, no matter what, is not going to be very good when LSU gets there. And I'm just curious how things go. It's in Oxford this weekend. Arkansas is 6-3. Ole Miss is 1-8. We know that. It should be a very offensive series. I think if I had one ticket outside of LSU, South Carolina, I'm probably going to Florida, Tennessee, which I'll talk about next. But this one, in terms of the intensity of the rivalry, what Ole Miss is up against at 1-8, it being in Oxford, and the offensive ability against some potentially suspect pitching staffs, I think this has all the potential for some fireworks over in Oxford. So that should be a really fun one to pay attention to. Florida and Tennessee in probably the SEC series of the weekend, maybe outside of LSU and South Carolina. But Florida and Tennessee, that is elite level arms. And lineups that I think are really good too. These are two of the best teams in all of college baseball. And you can look at Tennessee's record and go, they're 4-5. What do you mean? They're really good. I promise you they're really good. And for some reason, their pitching statistics don't mirror the kind of arm. I mean, you saw the arms in the box last weekend. You think those guys should have the ERAs that they're sporting right now? I don't know. Brandon Sproat has been a little up and down. And quite frankly, Hurston Waldrop has not been statistically great at Florida. You can watch him pitch and go, whew, that breaking ball, that fastball, that splitter that he was throwing against LSU last year in the regional, this is going to be awesome. And it's in Knoxville. They'll probably fill it up. I don't know what the weather's supposed to look like, but it is on ESPNU tonight at 7 o'clock. It ought to be Brandon Sproat versus Chase Dolander. That's elite level stuff. That's a pair of first rounders going at it. I like Tennessee at home to win this weekend, but it's going to be a war. And if you told me Florida went in there and swept it, I'd be surprised, but it is what it is. That Florida team is really good, and Tennessee better start pitching it a little bit better than they have been, or they're not going to put together the type of resume that they should. These two teams both should be top 8 teams based on their talent, and based on what their preseason projection was. But right now, Tennessee is not playing like it. You got swept by Missouri and you came to Baton Rouge and lost a couple. And oh, by the way, it ain't getting any easier for the Vols. They play Florida at home this weekend. They're at Arkansas the next weekend. And then they come home for Vanderbilt. So it's brutal for Tennessee right now. The good news for them is it should eat up after that with Mississippi State and Georgia for 6 games. So it's a long 30-game grind. It is. But it's Tennessee's not where they figured they would be. You lose 3 games to Missouri, you got to find a way to get a couple of extra somewhere. So if you could sweep Florida, that'd be getting an extra one, maybe 2. They got that opportunity this weekend. Texas A&M and Auburn, I'm not overly impressed with either of those teams right now. I think A&M's better. and I think they'll go on the road and get both of these. They need to. They're 3-6 right now in the league, as is Auburn. You've heard me say this a bunch by this point. I'm just not. I don't love Auburn. I think Ike Irish, who hits third for them, it's a freshman, is a star. I think he's going to be an absolute star in this league. They got to find somebody to get somebody out. If you missed this on Monday, I gave the stat. In 3 of their last 4 SEC games, Auburn has given up like 27, 14, and 12. I mean, just like absolutely getting bludgeoned. So they're just not pitching, and A&M's got a good lineup. So I think A&M will go to Auburn, and they'll get this one. The one Friday, Saturday, Sunday series this weekend in the Southeastern Conference is Kentucky and Georgia. That'll be in Athens. Kentucky is 8-1. How much do we believe in Kentucky? Me personally, not a lot. I don't think they're that good. I think they have feasted on a really benign schedule that will continue in this one. But if you were trying to make an SEC schedule to get off to a good start, you would give yourself Mississippi State, Alabama, Missouri, and Georgia. That's as good as you can do outside of maybe Auburn. So once Kentucky finishes this, here's what they got coming up. LSU, A&M, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. I think it gets real bumpy for the Wildcats at that point. They may go to Athens and sweep this series and show up in Baton Rouge 11-1, and they may take 2 out of 3 from LSU. Who knows? It's a weird sport. But my guess is that that's not going to be what happens. I think they'll handle their business potentially in Athens this week. It wouldn't surprise me if Georgia won the series, but Georgia is not very good. And then, we'll kind of see what the future holds. But you will hear this from me starting at the back end of next week with Kentucky. Consider me not a buyer at this point with the Wildcats. That's just where I sit. I may ask Joe Healy that exact question. We'll have him next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. You can bet Aaron Judge to club a home run. You can pick a pitcher to go over on strikeouts. Whatever you see on the MLB slate, you can bet it. Don't miss your chance to get in on a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/1045ESPN to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as a non-withdrawable bonus bet that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you're somebody who knows a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back. Join us on Saturday, April 22nd at the Ochsner Medical Complex at The Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown presented by Ochsner. Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com. All right.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service. Where
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. We're previewing Game 1 of LSU South Carolina and a special edition of the Riot Radio Hours. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We'll talk Pels with David Grubb, Hard in the Paint podcast, coming up in 15 minutes. But for now, we'll head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chat with our guy, Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Joe, how are you?
Doing pretty well, Hunt. How about yourself?
Doing very well. Let's go back to last weekend first and then get to the action this weekend in a rainy Southeast. LSU takes care of 2 out of 3 out of Tennessee, and then the Saturday game gets away from them there. But a series victory for the Tigers. What'd you take away?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just establishes, those two teams that we thought were both national title contenders and still are, by and large, that LSU is just a cut above at this point. And I think the game changer is really having Paul Skeens do what he does on Fridays, or first games of series on Thursday last week in that specific case. But when you have that guy, it's like a cheat code, because you can then, even if the next two games are kind of toss-ups, which is what it felt like in that series, you split the last two games, but because you have that cheat code on the first game of the series, it's just such a game changer. You're not really having to scrap for all 3 games, or at least it doesn't feel like it. So, and the other thing was just that I think that was a great showcase for college baseball. I mean, that sounds like a little bit hokey maybe, but I really do think, that first game was so electric. Mark Etheridge, my colleague, was there and raved about just the atmosphere and how much it just felt like, that was just a big-time college baseball game that we had looked forward to since the schedule came out last fall, and it lived up to every bit of the expectation.
Yeah, we had Mark on the next day, and it was he was gushing about it then. It was a lot of fun in the box on that Thursday night. Your opinion on – I've watched Tennessee a ton of the last 2 years, obviously, as most people, but I had not seen those 3 arms in person and was really impressed with all 3 of them, seeing them in person. But the statistics aren't great, and none of them threw a pitch in the 6th inning over the weekend, which is a little bit of credit to LSU, but it's not like it's the first time in 2 years that's happened. Your thoughts on why Tennessee's pitchers aren't dominating to the level that maybe their stuff would indicate?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's worth noting, Drew Beam has been just as good as he was last year, basically. He's kind of the silent assassin of that rotation. He doesn't have the best stuff. He doesn't miss bats at a super high level. He's on paper the most hittable of the 3, and yet his numbers are the best of the 3, and last year we're right there with the other 2. And so when you look at Dollander and Burns, I think Dollander's probably been better than the numbers suggest, although I'm with you. I'm not disagreeing with your larger point. They have been a little bit underwhelming in relation to the expectation we had for them. And so I think he's actually been okay. I think it's the case with him where, one is the expectations we had for them are just so through the roof. I think the other thing is that he was kind of a mystery coming out of Georgia Southern 2 years ago. And so I think it took a while for the SEC to even understand what Tennessee had on its hands last season. And then by the time tape got out on him, it was kind of too late. He'd already put up the numbers he put up. So I just think teams are having more success because they've got more of a book on him and they're attacking him better. Chase Burns is the one that's a little more interesting to me because some of the feedback I've got on him is that, look, it's an electric 2-pitch mix, fastball slider, but it is a 2-pitch mix. And the hitters in the SEC are good enough that if one of those two pitches isn't totally on in a given night and you may turn him into kind of a one-pitch pitcher, well, I don't care how electric it is, you're not going to have a ton of success with one pitch. So he's the one that stands out to me that it feels like an adjustment kind of needs to be made. I'm less worried about the other two.
The other series I wanted to talk about last weekend before we get to this coming weekend was the one in College Station. Texas A&M takes 2 of 3 from the Ole Miss Rebels, who are now 1-8 in league play. Do you think that's a stepping stone for A&M? Do you think the numbers are increasingly difficult for Ole Miss? What was your biggest takeaway from that weekend?
Yeah, I think with that series when A&M now has what I would call a palatable record in SEC play, right? And they've played the toughest schedule of anybody, right? I mean, obviously Ole Miss is not lived up to what the expectations were for them, but coming into the season, there was no team that had a tougher first 3 weeks than A&M. And so the fact they've gotten out of that and survived it, I would say, I think is really, really good news and opens up the path to this team could still host, right? And so the question I have with them, though, is they're really scrambling on the mound right now. I mean, Detmer is steady, but it doesn't seem like he's necessarily taken a step over what he was last year, which was good, not great. But they've already cycled through a bunch of other guys in the weekend, and it doesn't really seem like they've found the right combination. So that's a concern for me. And with Ole Miss, I mean, this just kind of is what this team is until they can figure something out on the mound, or if they figure something else out on the mound. And, you know, I like that team better than I do Mississippi State on balance. So I give them a better chance to get a little something going. But this isn't necessarily like last year's team where, you know, it was just a matter of getting going. I just think this might be what Ole Miss is in its current iteration.
All right, let's move to this weekend. I think the biggest series, if it's not LSU, South Carolina, to me it's Florida and Tennessee. The talent on the mounds, the big bats in the lineup. What draws your eye towards Florida and Tennessee?
You know, we talked about Tennessee's rotation. Florida kind of has a similar thing going, right? Where, you know, Brandon Sproat was awesome against Alabama, and I was there and was like blown away by it, and scouts who were there were blown away by it, and we kind of thought, okay, you know, Brandon Sproat 2.0, here he is. And then his last 2 starts have been pretty poor, honestly, and Hurston Waldrop has maybe been better than the ERA suggests, but his ERA is almost 5.
Yeah.
And Jack Caglione, as much as Jack Caglione has really kept going offensively, his last couple starts haven't been very good. He struggles with the strike zone quite a bit, and that's been an issue for him. And so their pitching staff has also backslid a little bit. So for me, the big thing is which of those 2 starting rotations, which might be the 2 most talented starting rotations in the SEC and by extension the country, which one of those 2 kind of gets it on track a little more this weekend. And if neither do, those are going to be some really high-scoring, really lengthy games because both of those offenses can really swing it.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of offense in that one, and then Ole Miss and Arkansas because, you know, those 2 are kind of figuring some things out on the mound as well. Who do you favor in the Florida-Tennessee weekend?
Florida. I think they're a more well-rounded team. You know, their bullpen quietly, the bullpen was much maligned early in the season, but kind of quietly they've started to figure some things out in the bullpen. So I actually kind of like how well-rounded they are. The lineup is not just strong 1 through 9, it's physical 1 through 9. The starting pitching, obviously, we just talked about how it's disappointed a little bit, but they can go toe-to-toe with Tennessee in terms of talent at least. So I kind of like what they have there, whereas with Tennessee, you look at the offense, and again, I think I've said this on your show before, but it feels like they're still very much trying to figure out who they are as a team, and I just think Florida has a much greater sense of self at this point.
Let's go to Ole Miss and Arkansas in Oxford this weekend. I was kind of communicating to my audience how intense that rivalry has become over the years. They played a Super a couple of years ago, and it's been a big one. Ole Miss is a desperate team, which LSU will see here in a couple of weeks. Do you think they've got enough to, at home, find a way to get a couple from Arkansas?
So I think they could, yes. The answer is they could. The trouble is Arkansas seems to play really well in spots like this. I said this on the podcast with Mark at the end of last weekend that, you know, I'm not a huge believer in culture as a buzzword. I think that's just way overused, and I don't even know what that means and how it's expressed, and you'll get a million different answers if you ask coaches. But I do think you can see the culture at a place like Arkansas in the way that they managed to win games and win series when, on paper, things didn't go well. I mean, last weekend, Hunter Holland got hit around for the first time all season. And if you'd have told me that going into the series, I'd have been like, well, that's kind of troublesome. And yet they figured it out. And they do this year after year after year. They always seem to have questions on the mound, you know, after their top couple of guys. Their offense sometimes goes through big lulls where we kind of wonder what's going on there. And yet you look up and they're either in Omaha or knocking on the door of Omaha. And it's just because they win ugly really, really well. And you mentioned, I think there's going to be a lot of runs this weekend. and they tend to play pretty well when they have those types of games.
All right, let's go to LSU and South Carolina. They'll start things off this evening. Will Sanders got some preseason All-American buzz. I've seen the tape on him. He's 6'6", 230, 92, 93 with a fastball. Splitter looked really, really good when he executed it. But he did not pitch last weekend. I didn't figure out why. Do you know why he did not pitch last weekend?
Yeah, all indications are it was just kind of giving him a week off. I think you mentioned it. He had a lot of buzz coming into the season, and I don't know if just some of that pressure was part of it, but he had a tough start 2 weekends ago against Missouri.
Yep.
He was, one thing he does more than anything else is throw strikes, and that start a couple weekends ago, he wasn't really even doing that. So I think it was just to kind of get him away from the game a little bit, and so they're comfortable running him back out there. Now, they probably felt like their hand was forced because Noah Hall, who's actually statistically been their best guy from start to finish in the rotation, is out with a back injury this weekend. So they would have been really thin had they not put Sanders back out there. But he's healthy. The thing with him, though, is that, again, talking about feedback I've gotten on him, is that, he really hasn't taken that next step. He's still kind of the same guy. I mean, the stuff on paper is pretty good, but the fastball's pretty flat, and it gets hit. And he's kind of been that guy throughout his career. And so that's the challenge with him. Now, that being said, they are glad to have him back because when he's on, he's really, really good. But he just has had moments where he's gotten hit. My thing to watch in the series, though, is kind of on the flip side of that. I think there's a lot of interest in, okay, how does the South Carolina pitching staff handle this LSU offense? I'm fascinated by the inverse of that, where South Carolina leads the SEC in home runs, and LSU is tied for second fewest home runs given up on the mound. And that's a pretty offensive ballpark in Columbia,
yep.
But I do wonder if the ball's not flying out, how does South Carolina score runs? We've really yet to kind of see that, and I think this weekend's a good test.
Yeah, I'm not obviously concerned tonight. I think Skeens will be just fine. I told my audience when I previewed this back in the first segment of my show, my concern is game 2. Floyd throws that high spin rate fastball that he likes to challenge people up in the zone with. And if South Carolina gets a couple of those up in the zone, like Tennessee did 3 times on Saturday, that could lead to some big numbers. That's where my concern comes in from an LSU perspective with LSU starting pitching, and then we'll see what Christian Little gives them in Game 3. That's kind of an unknown.
Well, yeah, and that's totally fair. And this series could be, as I sit here, taking in a little bit of mid-major baseball today here in Charlotte, and we're sitting in a lightning delay. In Columbia, it looks like the weather is pretty dicey, especially for Saturday. So that could be a doubleheader situation tomorrow. And you know how those go. I mean,
yeah.
Pitching plans just go straight out the window. So and that's part of what makes South Carolina dangerous. I love the pitching staff, but also that's a team that wants to do damage and wants to swing for the fences. And if they get going and they're teeing off, like they can really put it on a team. So, but again, if LSU pitches up to its level, I will be curious to see if South Carolina is able to do something other than just kind of swinging from their heels. We
shall see. Joe, enjoy the baseball this weekend. We'll talk next week.
All right, see you then.
He is Joe Healy, D1 Baseball, part of the SEC Extra. Check out the Highway to Hoover podcast. He and Mark Etheridge do an awesome job with their weekend recaps on Monday. Usually has a beat writer in the middle of the week from another team. If you're kind of looking to learn a little bit about another SEC team, their content over there at SEC Extra, part of the D1 family, is fantastic, and we appreciate Joe for jumping aboard each and every Thursday here. I want to give my guys at Corks a shout-out today. If you're looking for some food on Good Friday for tomorrow, you got a family coming over, you want to do a little bit of catering, Corks can help you out with that. They're right there on Government between Foster and Jefferson. Fantastic fried fish, fantastic Gulf shrimp, the great crispy shoestring fries they've got that are brand new. They got your cocktail sauce, tartar sauce, their Cork sauce, ketchup. They got it all over there. It's a new concept, fried seafood right here in Baton Rouge, and it is awesome, awesome stuff. It's from the folks that brought you Kuyon. So if you're looking for some food this weekend on a holiday weekend, Corks, your one-stop shop. Tell them that the Hunt Palmer Show sent you on over there. They'll appreciate that. So want to give our guys from Corks a shout-out here on this Thursday. We'll come back. David Grubb, Hard in the Paint podcast. The Pels survived last night. What do they have looking forward in the last week of the season? That's next.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown is back.
Join us on Saturday, April 22nd
at the Ochsner Medical Complex at the Grove. We've got cooking teams of pros and Joes serving up their best jambalaya and Cajun Creole dishes, all while helping raise dough for local families battling cancer. Bring the whole family for great food, live tunes, and good times. Clash of the Cooks Jambalaya Showdown presented by Ochsner.
Saturday, April 22nd at lunchtime. Help us paddle it forward. For tickets and more information, go to clashofthecooks.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green. This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call.
Join me, Jimmy Ott, Charles Hannegriff, for the Thursday edition of Game Time. Game Time from Jolie Pearl. That's right, watching the LSU South Carolina baseball game. Thursday edition of Game Time from Jolie Pearl on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Early storyline from Augusta. Victor Hovland, a bogey-free 65. He is 7 under, leading in the clubhouse. John Rahm playing the 18th at 6 under, 1 shot back. Will Zalatoris WD'd earlier today with an injury. And Tiger Woods finishes up with a bogey. He shoots 2 over on the day. Let's head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. David Grubb, Hard in the Paint podcast, joins us to talk all things Pels. David, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I don't think you would have been quite as good. People of New Orleans wouldn't have been quite as good if things would have gone south in overtime last night. What was your perspective of the last 11 seconds there?
Larry Nance Jr. saved himself a lot of trouble. It was going to be bad for Larry.
I mean, as you sit there and watch that unfold, it's almost unlosable at that point, and then you do so many unacceptable things between fouling a three-point shooter, allowing an offensive rebound on an intentionally missed free throw, an offensive foul from your best player. What was the energy like in the blender as this is all going on?
I mean, it's such a crazy night because all of this was unexpected. I mean, you go through the first half, and the atmosphere was disappointing. You know, this is a team that looked like it was going to get run off its home floor. And then you go through that second half where they play incredible basketball and get themselves back into it. And in those last 11 seconds, I mean, I think it's symbolic of being a New Orleans Pelicans fan. Like, this team will take you to the depths of despair, and it'll take you to the heights of exhilaration, all in the same game span. And it never ends with this team. You have no real steady footing. So as great as last night was, it just encapsulates what it's like to watch this team.
Would it be fair to me to say, hey, nice job by, a team that hasn't played deep into the playoffs or, been, chiseled by a ton of veterans, like to blow a lead with the last 11 seconds and to come back and play a good overtime period? That deserves a little bit of credit, no?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't underestimate how big that win was. For them to show that kind of mental fortitude when Brandon Ingram is not having a great game, for them to shoot the ball the way that they did, and to keep playing. I mean, there was no indication that they had that in them after the first 24 minutes. So you have to give the Pelicans and Willie Green and his staff all kinds of credit for staying in that ball game. And then, like you said, the disappointment of regulation to come out and just blow the Grizzlies out of the water to start overtime and give them no chance of winning that game.
Yeah, it was impressive. Obviously, Herb Jones with literally a career game in terms of shooting the three ball and points scored. Any reason to believe he can add a little bit more offensive punch than he does, or that's just a one-off night and you ride the hot hand?
Look, we can't get into a situation where we start depending on Herb Jones to put up 20 points a night.
Sure.
If that's the case, the Pelicans are in trouble. I mean, this season when he scores in double figures, they still have a losing record. So that means the teams are going to probably try to find ways to make Herb beat them on most nights. As you get into the playoffs especially, I think they're going to do more of this. It's great that he responded, but to count on him to put up 30 and to hit threes the way he did, I think would be unrealistic. You want Herb to be consistent. You want him to be a threat. But to expect him to be a high double-digit scorer on a regular basis, I think would be a bit far at this stage.
Maybe a little confidence for Herb after last night. You certainly don't want to rely on a night like that, but when you get a night like that, you need to go ahead and win it, and the Pels did find a way to get that done. I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine yesterday before the Pels even played last night, and we were talking about how, in basketball, really all levels, you go back to LSU's girls on Sunday, they spaced the floor late in the game and gave it to their best ball handler and shot creator in Alexis Morris, and she got it done late to kind of close the door. How should Pelicans fans feel as we get to games that mean a ton over the next week and hopefully a little bit further than that, with the ball in Brandon Ingram's hands to close games out late compared to maybe the rest of the Western Conference?
I mean, comparatively speaking, you feel comfortable with B.I. in those late game situations because he's shown that he can perform in those. But the question is always how consistent can he be and can he do that against the elite teams? They're going to get that until they prove otherwise. So I think Brandon Ingram, you feel some comfort in it because you know he can close. But what you look at is each individual opponent. And I think there are teams that are better suited for dealing with B.I. than there are for others. And the Grizzlies had a lot of guys who are physical and long and who could frustrate him and keep him out of the paint. And so I think it's going to be, as every team is going to be looking at over the next couple of days, so matchup dependent going forward. But I think if you're the Pelicans and you look at Brandon Ingram, he's in that second cut because there are a lot of guys going into this postseason who are unproven. But the ones that are maybe don't have necessarily the best supporting casts around them. So I think it's hard to find who in the West in particular is the closer outside of Steph Curry and LeBron James having those credentials.
What kind of team do you sense the Knicks are going to put on the floor? Pretty compromised, I'd imagine.
They are compromised, but you look at last night and they do the things that the Pelicans struggle with. You had Emmanuel Quickly and another backup guard. I'm sorry, I'm losing his name right now, but they combined for over 70 points last night.
Yeah.
So the Pelicans struggle with guards who can penetrate and knock down the threes. You saw that, the penetration against Memphis. You saw that against Sacramento. So I think what the Knicks are going to do without Julius Randle is they're going to try to, again, against the Pelicans, you want to increase the pace and get into the paint. So the one thing the Pelicans have to do, no matter it's with the Grizzlies or whomever, is they've got to find a way to stop guards from living in the paint.
That's basketball 101. You let guards dice you up, you're going to have a long game, no matter what level you're playing at. All right, obviously the elephant in the room. I look at the injury report. I see Jalen Brunson doubtful, and then I look down at New Orleans. I see, Zion Williamson doubtful. At least he's sitting right there, and there's an upgrade. What do you know?
From what we've been told is that the more likely destination for him to come back is Minnesota. Now, there hasn't been an official announcement yet, of course. Excuse me. But I would imagine with them having that one practice left that they want to get Zion a practice before they get him on the floor. When he does return, if it is in this postseason or it is that last regular season game, I would also expect for him to be coming off the bench with some time restrictions. But they won't be hard because I imagine if he's playing well, they will let him continue to play.
What an odd situation that would present, but it's not like we haven't seen this before. We saw it a couple of years ago. So, what do you expect over the next over the next 7 days here with these Pelicans? Exactly, that's the point of the question.
Expectations are probably the worst thing to have for this team. Just seeing them do anything repeatedly has been an issue. So, you go into these last two games. They have to beat the Knicks. They're going to put everything that they can into winning that game and setting it up for the Timberwolves. But I still like the Pelicans, maybe edging themselves out of that 7-8 game and ending up at 6. Right now the Lakers and Clippers are fighting for that spot. But I think the Pelicans can steal that. If they don't, you don't want to fall any lower than 8.
There's no question about that. There's so many mathematical situations. I looked over it earlier this week before the game last night. I was like, that's not even worth doing a segment on because there's so many things that can happen. You're just going to have to let it unfold. And the key to the Pelicans, just keep winning games. Go beat the Knicks, go beat Minnesota, and let the chips fall where they may. David, we appreciate your time on this Thursday. Have a great weekend. We'll do it soon.
You too, brother.
That is David Grubb, Hard in the Paint podcast. Does a great job covering the Pels, covering the Saints, does some baseball stuff as well. So give him a follow on Twitter, David Grubb, Hard in the Paint podcast. We'll come back, close things out for the week. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Rally Cap Brewing. Got a holiday weekend. The weather might not be awesome. You may have some family in town, not sure what you're going to do. I got the idea for you. Rally Cap is open. They are doing their tours this weekend. They will have tours on Friday and Saturday. Friday at 5, Saturday at 1. And they're going to have crawfish this weekend at 1 o'clock tomorrow. So if you're looking for something to do with the fam, want to get out of the house and it's raining, you can't find something, Rally Cap Brewing. It's off Segan, right there in the heart of Baton Rouge. And it's awesome. We went and had a tour last week. It's so cool to see how they brew all their different beers. You got the smells going, the aroma. You can see all the impressive tanks. And then at the end, you get a guided flight. You can taste some of their fantastic beers. I've got right here on the set the First Pitch, which you can find at Alec Box Stadium, by the way. Got the Windy Peppercorn right there. I love the In a Pickle. I like the lighter, more refreshing beers. You want something a little different, maybe the Pastry Stout. It's called Ballpark Breakfast, brewed with maple syrup. It's brewed with cinnamon and vanilla. I'm a pretty straight line beer guy, but if you like everything across the board, Rally Cap is the spot for you. Give them a shot this weekend. Give them a tour. Check it out. You got to get tickets in advance. You can do that at rallycapbrewing.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
I drove myself to the ER, had heart surgery, and drove myself home 24 hours later, feeling fine. Starting running again after the procedure, I'm getting excited thinking about it. I had no pain, nothing. I felt great. And right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm back. I'm back. It's just amazing.
Ochsner Health. Long live you.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
For over a century, local broadcasting has evolved with the needs of the community. We move past the stigmas of opinion journalism and bring the most relevant news online, on air, and on the go. You have trusted us with your news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Trust us to keep moving with you. Text TB to 52886 and tell Congress local broadcasting is here to stay.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
For live MLB play-by-play this weekend when the Atlanta Braves host the San Diego Padres. Saturday at 6:20 and Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, a little update from Augusta before we get to take it or leave it. Victor Hovland, bogey-free, 65, 7 under par. He is joined at that number by John Rahm, who made double on the first hole, played the last 17, 9 under par without a bogey. Had an eagle on the par 5 8th. Finished his round with 65, 7 under as well. Cam Young, who is a stud, 5 under par. He is done. Shane Lowry, Victor Schauffele, and Adam Scott all shot 4 under on the day. Brooks Koepka joins them there. Joaquin Niemann also at 4 under par. Sam Burns at 4 under par, and Jordan Spieth 3 under on his round through 7 holes. I'll be pulling for Jordan, but also Sam as well. Tiger Woods, a 2 over par, 74. It's just tough for Tiger to walk those golf courses. If you go back and look at his round today, you'll see the bunker shot he hit out of the fairway bunker on 18, where he had to put all of his weight on his right leg, which is his bad leg, and it did not look good on the follow-through, quite frankly. He's out there gutting it out, but it's just tough for him to walk those ridiculous undulations at Augusta. So 2 over for Tiger, who's going to have to work his tail off tomorrow to make the weekend. All right, that's it for a little Augusta update. Let's play some Take It or Leave It. Taylor's back.
Yes, sir. So, an official game-used Babe Ruth baseball bat sold at an auction recently for a record $1.85 million. $1 million for a bat. Take it or leave it.
So that's all relative. Depends on who bought it. If the guy who bought it's net worth is $1.9 million and he's got only $150K left to his name,
maybe not a good investment.
I think not the best investment there. Maybe not a great idea. If the guy who bought it's worth $1.1 billion. Great. That's pennies off the floor you picked up and got a Babe Ruth bat. Me personally, I'm going to look elsewhere with my investments, not necessarily in the market for a $1.85 million bat at this current rate. We may get a few more live reads. I might do a few more remote broadcasts, maybe a couple of Pluckers trivia nights, and we may be looking more into the Babe Ruth bats. But at the current juncture, we're going to stay away from the Babe Ruth bats for $1.85 million.
Tyreek Hill was recently on Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City, where he said he will finish out his current contract with the Dolphins, then retire after the 2025 season. Retiring early, take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Absolutely. Look, I think there are a lot of people who you hear, well, if I won the Powerball for like $160 million, like I would still go into the office because I'd want to do something productive. Nope. You see me win a Powerball for $200 million, you will not see me in the office ever again. I would be great at sleeping until 9 o'clock, at going out and playing 36 holes, maybe cooking some meals, traveling to Europe with somebody, go down to the beach for 3 weeks. Like, I don't need to work. And if you've got the means to hang it up at the age of 32, hang it up. That's a great idea in my book. So I think that a lot of people look at me and say that that's a flaw in my personality, that you should want to contribute and have some purpose to your life. You give me that much cash, you're not going to see me in the office.
All right, shifting to our holiday weekend.
Okay.
Easter egg hunts, take it or leave it.
Oh, you got to take it. I mean, look, a lot of the Easter egg hunts, quite frankly, are not very fair because you got the 7-year-olds just knocking the 3-year-olds into the bushes. You know, you got a little bit more quickness, a little more aggressiveness to the older kid who might be, you know, a little bit out of the league of some of the younger kids. You got to kind of guide the younger ones. Look, my kid can't walk, so if he's going to participate in an Easter egg hunt, we're going to have to, you know, put those things out in the open and let him kind of crawl over to an Easter egg hunt. He can stand up a little bit, but the walking, he didn't have great speed. He's not as fast as Tyreek Hill, you may say. So you got to handicap the Easter egg hunts appropriately, but I do feel as though they're a quality Easter activity, so I will take the Easter egg hunt.
How about the dyeing of Easter eggs? Take it or leave it.
That I'm going to leave. I don't need to dye Easter egg hunt. I've never done it before. It looks very messy. I don't even know what the end result here is. What do we do with the Easter egg when it's over? It seems like something we're just going to ditch. It's not going to go up in the house anywhere or anything. You know, maybe it's something for somebody. I'm gonna leave the dyeing of Easter eggs. That's not going to make my Easter activities.
All right, last one, and you know we all know the Easter candies. Cadbury eggs are my favorite.
Sure,
you
my
got
wife's
the
all about
Reese's
them.
eggs. Chocolate bunnies.
Yep.
This one may be the most controversial. Peeps, take it or leave it.
Oh no, you got to leave it. Peeps are terrible. They're not good.
The Peep Pinks, they taste. The pink Peeps, they taste better than the yellow.
I'm out. I'm out on Peeps. I don't need. People try to get creative with the Peeps. The Peeps are bad. We don't need to deal with Peeps. Why in the world would you eat a Peep if there's a Reese's egg or a Cadbury egg there?
It's just a marshmallow with sugar on top.
It's terrible. Get rid of it. It's awful. I disavow the Peeps. They're out. There will not be any Peeps at our Shreveport Easter celebration. We'll make sure of that. We're probably going to do some Easter egg hunting. Unfortunately, it just sounds like the weekend is going to be a wash, like everywhere in the Southeast. I mean, they're talking about LSU dodging bullets over there in South Carolina. It sounds terrible at Augusta, which is really close to there. I'm going to Shreveport to play golf. Apparently, the course is underwater. It's a tough scene in the Southeast for Easter weather. So if you're, looking to do something, maybe Rally Cat Brewing Tour would be a better option. They're going to have crawfish and not Peeps at Rally Cat, so I would highly suggest you stop on by. That'll do it for our Thursday edition of Take It or Leave It. I gave my thoughts on LSU's baseball weekend in South Carolina in the opening segment. I'll give them again right here briefly as we wrap things up. I like LSU in the game tonight. It sounds like the weather's going to hold off for tonight. I like Paul Skeens against any lineup in the country. You do have to keep the ball in the yard against South Carolina because they are a threat to leave at any time. But I like Paul Skeens missing some bats, getting some strikeouts, and getting LSU a win tonight. And I think LSU will be able to handle Will Sanders today. The question is, Game 2, whenever it's played, however it's played, I worry about the matchup for Ty Floyd because trying to live on that fastball that rides up in the zone a lot is a recipe to hit some bats and have some guys run some balls out of the yard. We saw Tennessee do it, and I think the pitching matchup with Mahoney against Floyd in Game 2 favors South Carolina, and so I think South Carolina may well win Game 2, and it may come down to a Game 3 where we got Christian Little going against TBA for South Carolina. That's where I think this game is this weekend is boiled down to. So you're going to be hard-pressed to find me adamantly picking against LSU at any point in this season. I do think this is a tough weekend for the Tigers, so hoping they get 2 out of 3, and that would be a rousing success and keep you on that path to 20 wins. But I do think it's going to be challenging because I think the Game 2 matchup is a tough one for the Tigers. So those are my thoughts on the LSU weekend in Columbia, South Carolina. If you want the full version of that with a scouting report on the Gamecocks, you can go to the 1 o'clock segment right at the top of the show. Paul Mainieri joined us at 1:15 talking about his trip to Augusta, talking about his opportunity to call a game for the ACC Network, talking a little LSU baseball, which we did with former Tiger coach, which was enjoyable. Scott Rabalais joined us from Augusta. Always enjoy that conversation with Scott. LSU basketball, transfer portal giveth with Jordan Wright. Take it away with Sean Phillips. My thoughts on that at the end of hour number 1. I prepped you for SEC baseball at 2 o'clock. Joe Healy at 2:15 in his normal spot, and David Grubb talking about the Pels at 2:30 before Take It or Leave It. That's it for us. We are off tomorrow. We will be back on Monday. Matt Moscona still coming up here on After Further View from 3 to 6, and Jimmy Ott going to work tonight, Game Time 6 to 8, and tomorrow from Rufino's from 10 to noon. But we will see you Monday. Have a great holiday weekend. Same time, same place on Monday. It's 1 to 3 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.